may be liable in this environment? Already some lenders are facing a class action suit as a result of the PPP program.
And do you get a sense as these bills are developed that there'll be a little more selfishness on our own part and a little more scrutiny of what the Chinese have done basically to eat our economy?
In the post-COVID environment, with your experience in the electoral process, what do you think the federal role is, and what do you think is going to happen with these elections?
Of how the members, one, what they think to be the greatest challenge that we're looking at during this crisis. Number two, the most important thing we can do during this crisis. And the third thing is, how do they believe the CARES Act is working right now?
What is the issue that we perhaps haven't talked about that you think is important to the country going forward?
So the pressure is on to try and reopen government. And so that means, to me, that we need to be doing testing at a wide-scale basis. Just over 50,000 cases tested. We've got over 4 million people in this state. We need to be testing. And we unequivocally that there's going to be a revisit of this virus in the fall. Does that mean we're going to have to close schools again? If we're going to close schools again, our children are going to lose 2 years of school. The only way to get around that is to have broadband.
I think. So Mnuchin emerged as a real star. But anyway, he likes to talk about this. You need to think of this as a baseball game. And the first 4 supplementals were probably the first 4 innings of a 9-inning game. I actually personally think we'll be legislating off coronavirus for the next 2 to 3 years minimum. If companies are going to, that were otherwise, either suspending production or shutting down plants, have to reopen them, and workers come to them, then I think the companies certainly need some liability protection in situations like that, or they'll be swamped with lawsuits. But China has not played by the rules that we all expected them to play by, and there's going to end up being consequences for that. Now, I don't want us to stumble into a new Cold War, let alone something worse. But if you're going to operate within the world system, you got to be a responsible player. The Chinese have not been.
Question, I think, moving out of this is, are we going to update the country in a significant way that is going to allow us to compete with 330 million people, compete with 1.4 billion people in China? So I hope we have the wisdom to deal with the crisis at hand, but also start laying some groundwork for what America 2.0 looks like coming out of this thing.
What we're witnessing is about a 10-year collapse into 2 months of technology revolution and workforce and workplace change. And then there's also the issue of, do you extend beyond 8 weeks the time that people can use this money? I'm hearing that a lot from employers that say, if you could give me a little more distance here, I'm not ready to bring people back and have them productively working, leave them on the unemployment, but when I reopen, that could be another month out. So there's a lot of discussion around that. So upwards of 70 to 75% of our voters were already voting by mail. We called it absentee ballots. So we went to all mail.
My hope is that we come out of this with a really renewed sense of togetherness, for lack of a better term, of a deeper connection to each other, a newfound respect for like a lot of the people who we whether it was the cashier at the grocery store, or the cop or the firefighter, or the person delivering the food, nurses, doctors, I hope there's a newfound respect for that. Everybody matters. Everybody has a role to play here in our country.
What would this country be like if every school child had access to the internet? What would it be like if every home had the ability to connect with healthcare? I think that we have reached a point in our society where we've got to ask ourselves, are we doing that which is just?